As we continue to search for answers as to why this Atlanta Braves team continues to underperform, leadership is one that always comes up. Austin Riley said that's good. Do you agree with him? We'll talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 14,000 by the All-Star break, and we are getting it pretty close to that. So thank you so much for your support there, and help others find us and hit that subscribe button by also hitting the thumbs up button and leave me a comment down below. Over 200 comments on yesterday's episode, which was a little bit controversial, but thank you so much for the comments and the kind words, even if you didn't agree with my take after witnessing that game on Sunday in person. I was maybe a little over the top with it, but I appreciate the great conversations that we had there. So thank you so much for that. Make sure that you are following as well on the audio side of things. You can leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of each and every day. And a big shout out to all my everydayers out there who comment just to comment and help us out. I really appreciate it whenever you do that. Several different topics I want to touch on in today's episode. One, I want to talk about the leadership because it's a question that I always get, and Austin Riley actually addressed this. So we're going to discuss that. We'll talk a little bit MLB draft. We'll do minor league spotlight. We'll touch again on the Rafael Devers conversation and trade, since it seems like the Braves maybe had some interest in that. And I'll set you up for the Mets series coming up, the one that they saved Chris Sale for to run down the New York Mets. We'll dissect everything coming up in that series. But I want to start off today talking about the comments from Austin Riley. If you didn't hear these, this was over on 680 The Fan on Monday. It was asked about leadership. And this is a question that I get asked myself all the time. Where is the Braves leadership? Who are the leaders on this team? And let me be upfront about this. I don't know. You don't know. And even the people who follow this team closely really don't know. They have a better idea than we do. And I get some feedback from the people who are in the clubhouse with this team, but even they don't really know the extent of who are the leaders on this team and what they are saying. Or let me say that. I think they have a good idea of who the leaders on the team are. And I think we know that. But to what extent are they leaders? How are they leading? In what way are they leading? What are the things that they are saying? Those are things that we aren't going to know, and we're not going to know. And Austin Riley even said he's not going to get into specifics of what was being said, but the things that needed to be said have been said, is basically what Austin Riley said in the comment. He mentions guys like Chris Sale, himself, Olsen, and Ozuna, which I think many of us would consider to be the leaders on the team because of their longevity, their track record, being there a while, their longevity with the team. I would consider those guys to be the leaders. I'd throw Ozzy in there as well as kind of that, keep everybody loose type of leader. I don't know that he's a guy that's going to go up to you and, you don't hustle or don't run out of ball or you do something like that, or to rally the troops whenever you're doing poorly. But he definitely is an integral piece of that clubhouse and keeping it loose. And that I've heard from many people who are on the beat and cover the team every day. But I think many of us would point to Riley, Olsen, Ozuna, Sale. Here's my question, or here's my concern, I guess, I have with those guys as being your leaders. I don't know that Riley and Olsen are outspoken enough. And again, this is my interpretation. This is me from 1,000-foot view. I don't know that those guys are outspoken enough to pull aside an Orlando Arcia when he was here to get him going, or to say something that maybe they didn't like that he did. I don't mean picking on Arcia, but Acuna, whoever. I don't know that they are the guys that can do that. And everybody's going to point to Freddie Freeman. And Shaq Bless says it best. Who's going to call you out when you're not working, when you're not putting in the work, when you're not hustling? Who's going to call you out? And again, this is just my my interpretation from what little I can see of these guys and what some that I do hear from the guys who are in the clubhouse, I just don't know that those are the guys that are going to call you out on those things. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't know if they are. And again, as I was getting to, everybody's going to point to Freddie Freeman, and everybody's going to point to the fact that Freddie was that guy, that he would call you out. He would call out, or he has called out an Acuna. And I'm sure he's called out others in the past. And he was that true leader of this team. And I just don't know that Riley and Olsen are those guys. They seem like the nicest guys in the world. So does Freddie Freeman. But I just don't know that they have that in them to be that type of leader. Again, pure speculation on my part. I just don't see that. You do see some fieriness from Matt Olsen. I think he, more than anybody, shows the most fire on this team whenever they're doing poorly. And I think you do see some of that. And I know these guys are working. That I never really question. You see that, and I hear that from everybody that has access to that team, that these guys work tirelessly and that they care very much about this. So, to kind of paraphrase what Austin Riley is saying, he's saying that he thinks leadership's good. Things that need to be said have been said. So my follow-up question to that is, okay, we have our leaders. We have the leadership group for the Atlanta Braves. Are they the right types of leaders? Because again, we're just judging based on what we're seeing on the field. And everything tells us that this team is talented enough to win a World Series, or at least I believe that. I know some people don't believe that anymore, but everything tells us based on the back of the baseball cards that these guys should be good enough to at least not be 10 games under 500 at this point of the season. So what is the disconnect? And we're all searching for it. And again, leadership is just one of those things that we are pointing to say, okay, is there a lack of leadership? And this, I'm trying not to go too much on a rant, because I went on a rant yesterday. 5022 Freedoms says, take me to your leader. That was pretty good one there. I don't want to go on too much of a rant because I did it on yesterday's episode, and I don't want to harp on it too much. But a lot of people didn't get the point of my rant yesterday. My point really had nothing to do with Chris Sale not throwing it and Grant Holmes throwing instead. Grant Holmes was great, and I said that from the top. My issue with what happened Sunday is that at the last minute, after they had already clinched the series, they said, okay, now we're going to push our ace into the Mets series. And just the message that it sent to me as a fan, and I would have to assume the message that it sent to the players was, okay, they don't view this game on Sunday as important as the game on Wednesday. They don't view this game against the Rockies, where we have a chance to sweep a bad team, as important as a game against the Mets. And some of you, made some valid arguments. I still don't agree with them that the Mets game is more important. I don't believe that. I believe with where this team is, every single game is important. And yes, Sale gives you a better chance of winning that game in that series. I understand all of that. Again, that was not so much my issue. My issue was that the message that it sent to this team. And for those that did get my point and made some good comments and some valid points, said, okay, if that is the case, and the team saw that, and they saw the decision from management and saw that the management group, the front office, the coaching staff didn't view this game as important, so I don't need to either, that those players should be more mentally tough and prepared to not let that get to them. And that is the best point I saw in the comment section. You're absolutely right. If that were the case, and as I said at the beginning of yesterday's podcast, it may not have made any difference at all. That team may still have came out and just laid an egg. We've seen them do it plenty of other times. But let's say that it did. Okay, then where's that mental toughness from this group? Where is that leader to say, you have to stay locked in, you have to stay focused, you cannot let up against even a team like the Rockies? Who is there to say that? Because that is my concern with this team, because what I saw on Sunday, and again, I was hypersensitive to it because I was there, and it was just an embarrassment. And you could just see the team was not engaged. The team was not completely focused. They were not there. I mean, it was an embarrassing effort against a team that was just really, really bad. And that to me speaks to a lack of leadership. When you have put yourself in the hole that you are into, you cannot take days off mentally, physically. And it just felt like they did that on Sunday. And who is the leader to after they get no hit for 4 2/3 innings, is going to be in the dugout telling them to wake up? You cannot lay back. You cannot get too big because you've won 3 games in a row. You have got to bear down and focus and get this done. And I just don't know that that leader is in there at all. And so, yeah, it's great. I agree with you, Austin. I agree that those are your leaders. And I agree that you probably are saying the things that need to be said, but are you doing them at the right time? Are you big enough to step up and say, we're not getting it done. We're terrible. We need to do something else. We need to lock in right now in the middle of the game. After you get no hit by Austin Gomber the first time through the order, are you going to step up and tell the team to wake up right then and right now? Not wait till the game is over, not wait till you've lost 7 in a row. Are you going to step up right now and say something? And like I said, maybe they are. I'm not in that clubhouse. I'm not in that dugout. I don't know. But it just, all we can take as fans is what we see on the field. And what I see on the field tells me that whatever leadership they do have, it's not enough. They're not rallying the troops enough. You're not having these hard conversations enough. And again, we're all grasping for straws to try to figure out why this team isn't playing to the level that it should be. And I think leadership is a part of it. I don't think it's the entire part of it. I think there's a lot of things that go into why the Braves aren't playing up to the level that they should be. But I do question the leadership. I do question the leaders that we have and if they are the right leaders and if they're able to communicate what they need to communicate when they need to communicate it. But again, that's an outside view. I don't know that. You don't know that. Nobody except who's in that clubhouse knows the real answer to that. All we can judge it on is by what we were seeing on the field. And again, I'm hypersensitive to it right now because I was at the game on Sunday and had to witness that in person. And it was just embarrassing. And it's what led to my tirade on yesterday. And I guess another one here today. But I think it goes into this conversation of leadership. And I don't know how, as a leader of this team, you don't rattle the cages after you get no hit for 3 innings by Austin Gomber and try to get the team going. Because you were letting a very winnable game get away from you. Your starter is out there striking out everybody. He does make his own error to hurt himself, but you don't do anything to pick him up behind him. And again, don't know because I'm not in there, but I feel like the leadership we have is not the right type of leadership. So again, that's all subjective. We can talk about it and argue about it in the comments all day. And I'm glad to have those conversations, but it's all just subjective on our end at this point. Protect PR, a sense of urgency needed. Yes, exactly. This team should have been in urgency mode weeks ago. And they are, again, it's the middle of June here, but it just feels like they are running out of time to really turn things around. And you just can't let games like Sunday get away from you. And I know I've harped on that game way too much, but it's just the recent one on the mind. All right, next, I want to get into the latest mock draft. Talk about Cage Wood and his performance, a name that I've mentioned a couple times for the Atlanta Braves in the upcoming draft. We'll also get to some minor league spotlight performances from this past week, set you up for the Mets series, and talk about that Devers news. A lot more to get to on today's episode of Locked On Braves here next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks. Plus, use our promo code SH5. You're going to get 5% off your first order. Again, that's promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. If you're tired of hearing me go on a rant about this Braves team, go check out Locked On MLB. They'll get you up to date with all the highlights happening around Major League Baseball. But please don't leave me. Stick with me. I promise you, we will get through this together. But let's talk about the mock draft because, hey, if the Braves don't turn things around, at least maybe we'll get a good draft pick next year. But for the upcoming draft, the Braves will be picking 22nd overall. Jim Callis of MLB Pipeline put out his latest mock draft on June 13th, and he had the Braves taking right-handed pitcher Patrick Forbes out of Louisville. This is the first time I've seen the name Forbes mentioned. Ranked 36th overall by Pipeline, 60 grade fastball that sits in the mid-90s, tops out at 100, has a plus slider to go along with it. Was slowed by a flexor strain to begin the season, so kind of coming on here late. He pitched against Oregon State in Louisville's first game in the College World Series, went 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 1 walk, 3 earned, 10 strikeouts. And in the Super Regionals, he struck out 9 Miami Hurricanes in 5 2/3 innings. So certainly has some big strikeout stuff, does Patrick Forbes, and seems like a guy that the Braves might target at 22nd. Callis also mentioned some other pitchers like high schooler Cruz Schoolcraft. I feel like every mock draft that I've read so far, they might not have had Schoolcraft as the pick, but he's been mentioned as somebody the Braves could target there. He also mentioned some college arms like Riley Quick, we've talked about before, out of Alabama, Zach Root, and Gage Wood. Both of those I mentioned all three of those on here before as guys that I like. Now, Zach Root had a rough start in the College World Series, gave up 3 runs in the first inning to LSU, was quickly pulled. But Gage Wood in game 2 of the College World Series for Arkansas, if you missed it on Monday afternoon, he threw a no-hitter with 19 strikeouts. Just an unbelievable performance. It's an upper 90s fastball, has a ton of life on it. He got 25 whiffs on that fastball alone. And just a very fiery guy, too. If you like the animation on the mound, he certainly has that. The only base runner that he allowed broke up the perfect game with a back foot slider that just grazed the toe of the left-handed hitter, right-handed pitcher in Gage Wood. And before you look at it and say, oh, it was just Murray State, they're a 4 seed from a regional that got into the College World Series. Murray State scored 9, 13, 8, and 12 runs in the Oxford Regional. 3 of those games against Ole Miss, 1 of them against Georgia Tech, who, as you know, are pretty good baseball schools. And then in these Super Regionals, they put up 19 in a game against Duke. So this was an offense that had been on fire leading up to the College World Series, and Gage Wood no-hit them with 19 strikeouts. It's one of the most incredible performances that I've ever watched, bordering, the Kerry Wood performance that I watched as a kid back in the day against the Astros. Now, Gage Wood was injured to start the year, but he's come on strong and is rising up boards. I had mentioned him early on as a guy that maybe because of his injury and him really just getting stretched out late, that it felt like a guy that has, upside potential as a first half of the first round arm talent. But maybe could fall to the Braves at 22 because of the injury. But after his performance on Monday, I don't know that he'll be available at 22 for the Atlanta Braves. And it's one of those guys that I like taking in the back half of the first round, because if the talent, plays out, you're talking about a top of the rotation arm. But if it doesn't, then you're looking at a very solid bullpen arm with that fastball slider combination. Only thing that gives me pause with Gage Wood is the 6-foot, 205-pound frame, but it's the same frame that Spencer Strider has. And while he's not quite Quadzilla, it is a very strong lower half for Gage Wood. So certainly a name to keep an eye on, again, if he makes it to the Braves now after that performance that he had. But certainly keep an eye out on Gage Wood. Now, minor league spotlight for the week, starting with Gwinnett. Carlos Rodriguez, 7 for 22, a triple homer, 3 walks, and a stolen base. I feel like he's been on the top of the hit list for Gwinnett for, I knew, at least the past 2, if not 3 weeks. And right now at AAA in 52 games, he's slashing 298, 357, just a 356 slug, but 18 walks to 24 strikeouts, 7 stolen bases to 5 caught stealing. That's not a good ratio, but a left-handed hitter who seems to be putting the ball in play, hitting for average, has some speed. I feel like he's next up. If you needed to replace Alex Verdugo as a left-handed bat, I feel like Rodriguez could get it. I don't think he's anything more than a bench bat 4th outfielder ultimately, but he has been producing since getting called up to AAA. Connor Capel was 5 for 10 with 2 doubles. Stuart Fairchild, who's now back up with the Braves, he was 5 for 12 with a double, a walk, 3 strikeouts, and a stolen base. And then Nacho Alvarez, 4 for 8 with a double, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, had a 106.2 mile per hour average or exit velocity hit on Sunday. So that's good to see. And then Jared Kelenic, just 3 for 17 last week, but was impactful. A double, a home run, had 4 walks at 3 strikeouts, which is good to see, and 1 stolen base. And for the pitchers at Gwinnett, Didier Fuentes, 4 2/3 innings, just 3 hits allowed with no walks, 1 earned on a solo shot, and 6 home runs, became the youngest pitcher in Gwinnett history. So that was really impressive to see. They've been pretty aggressive with Didier Fuentes this year, and I haven't really talked about him as a bullpen option, but they're likely going to manage his workload at some point this year, and they kind of already have. They're not letting him go too deep into games, but he's got some big-time stuff with that fastball. He threw it 70% of the time in his first start. It averaged 95.7, topped out at 98.4, and he got 9 whiffs on 29 swings. That's a 31% whiff rate on the four-seamer, which is above average around Major League or for Major League Baseball. Also, there's a curveball and a splitter, but he has better command than Lara and Munoz and has similar type of stuff. And so if you wanted to give Fuentes a shot in the bullpen, I think I could see the Braves doing it as a way to kind of limit his innings this year. Certainly not giving up on him as a starter because it's, top of the rotation type of potential with him, but could be another option for the bullpen at some point. Hurston Waldrop, 6 innings, 7 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts on 92 pitches. So a good bounce back start from him. 32 four-seamers, 24 sliders, 18 splitters, and 16 curveballs. So we had seen him go a lot to just fastball slider as he turned things around, but he really mixed it up in this one and got some good results from it. 12 whiffs, 6 on that splitter, which continues to be his best, swing and miss pitch. 53 pitches in the zone and 39 out is the key that I always look at with Hurston Waldrop. 16 balls put in play. Only 6 of them were hard hit, and only 3 of those had good launch angle. So they had trouble squaring him up. So definitely a good start for Hurston Waldrop, trying to get back on track with those good mechanics. And it sounds like he's starting to throw a 2-seamer as well. So giving him a little bit more different look with that fastball. Ian Anderson, 4 1/3, 4 hits, 4 walks, 3 earned, 4 strikeouts. I really want Ian to figure it out, but I don't know that he will at this point. Hayden Harris, 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, no earned, no strikeouts for Hayden Harris, but still getting the results. At Columbus, David McCabe, 5 hits, 2 walks. Ethan Workinger, 5 for 20 with 2 doubles, a home run, and 3 walks. Landon Harper, 7 1/3 innings, 12 strikeouts, and just 1 walk. J.R. Ritchie, 3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, 4 strikeouts. Austin Smith, 3 innings, 1 hit, no walks, no earned, 4 strikeouts. Lucas Braun, 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 walks, 4 earned, and 3 strikeouts. I got a couple more teams I want to get to here, but before we do that, let's take one more break. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? No. You looked it up for the next one and you called them. That's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone solves that for you instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more asking, who's handling this one? And the AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Braves listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Let's wrap up our minor league spotlight section here, going down to Rome, where Justin Giannis was 8 for 24 with a double, a home run, and a stolen base. Patrick Cloizes had 6 hits, including 2 doubles, a walk, and 4 stolen bases. And Lisandro Espinosa, 5 for 22 with 2 doubles, a home run, and 5 walks. And on the pitching side at Rome, Jacob Kroger, a guy that I seem to be mentioning on here a lot lately, 5 2/3 innings, 11 strikeouts to 1 walk. Garrett Ballman, 5 innings, 6 hits, no walks, no earned, and 5 strikeouts. Corey Wall, Jacob Gomez, and Rob Griswold all had good outings as well. for Rome last week. At Augusta, Owen Carey, 6 hits and a stolen base. John Hill, 6 hits, 3 doubles, 4 walks, and 2 stolen bases. Continues to have a very good approach at the plate. Might be one of the best just pure hitters in the system right now at 19 years old. So certainly one to keep an eye on. Isaiah Drake making improvements, 4 hits, 6 walks, did strike out 10 times though, but 4 stolen bases, getting on base 10 times. That's good to see. And the pitching side at Augusta, Luis Aristegueta, 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, 5 strikeouts. Owen Hackman, 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 4 strikeouts. David Rodriguez, 6 innings, 2 hits, no walks, 1 earned, and 3 strikeouts. And then unfortunately, Cam Caminiti, rough outing, 2 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 4 walks, 3 earned, no strikeouts, was pulled early in this one. Unsure still if it was due to injury or just because he was struggling. He was clearly battling command. Hopefully nothing there, and hopefully we'll see him back out there this week and can bounce back from that one. And then at the FCL level, Juan Mateo, 5 for 18 with 2 doubles, 4 walks. Mario Baez, 3 for 6, a double, 5 walks, and 3 stolen bases. Jose Perdomo, just 3 for 19 with no walks and 5 strikeouts. Still have yet to see him take off at the FCL level. Colson Lawrence on the mound, 4 1/3, just 1 hit, 2 walks with 7 strikeouts. Came in good, 4 innings, 4 hits, did walk 4, but no earned, and 2 strikeouts. And then Wilmer Guerra, 4 1/3 innings, no hits, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. And then at the DSL level, Diego Torrens, 6 for 17, 2 doubles, 2 triples, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. So good to see him going. And then Roddy Reyes, 3 2/3 innings, 2 hits, did walk 4, but no earned runs, and 5 strikeouts, showing that big arm that he has there. Now, I want to get into some of the news of the day, and hopefully we have time left for this Mets preview, but Stuart Fairchild is back. Azokar was the one to be let go, as we talked about last week, and I speculated would be the case. Ronald Acuna Jr. won Player of the Week. No real surprise there. Ronald is 6th in the All-Star voting among NL outfielders. That needs to be higher. He needs to be starting. Now, I believe the way the All-Star voting goes today, and forgive me, I don't really get too involved in the All-Star voting, but really only mentioning it this year because it's in Atlanta. I think right now in phase 1 for the outfielders, just need to be in the top 6. I think the top vote getter overall in the outfield automatically gets a start, but we need to make sure Ronald gets to the All-Star game. It's going to be pretty embarrassing. The All-Star game's in Atlanta. We have 2, maybe 3 representatives. Maybe Matt Olson gets in the home run derby, but nobody else, no other player is top 5 in their position. And even Ronald's not top 5 in his position. He was 6th, but obviously outfielders get more spots. And I think you are going to get Sale in there, maybe Schwellenbach and Acuna. I think right now you're going to get 3 guys in, but we definitely need to make sure Acuna gets in. That there's no questions about that one. I'm probably going to talk more about this in tomorrow's podcast, but the report out there that the Braves were showing interest in Rafael Devers before he was moved to the Giants. My initial just speculative thoughts on this, and that's why you come here to hear my thoughts and opinions. I think this is Alex Anthopoulos just doing his due diligence. Now, it sounds like it was more than that, and there's even some speculative reports out there that I don't know that I fully trust, that there was actually some names that were swapped in terms of what the Red Sox wanted. So that sounds a little bit more serious. As far as what this means, to me, again, just speculating what it could mean if the Braves actually were the ones to get Devers, what would AA's plan be for that? And I would have to think that it's to take over the DH spot for Marcell Ozuna, but that's a really expensive DH. Now, he's a really good player, and hopefully with him and Acuna, maybe it would have sparked the offense. It's obviously, doesn't matter now. He went to the Giants, but very interesting to hear that the Braves, had some interest in Devers. And we might talk more about that on tomorrow's episode in terms of what big moves could the Braves make. Let's look at the Mets series really quickly, though. You look at their offense, they're only 17th in batting average. They don't hit for a high average, but what they do really well, they're 3rd in on-base percentage because they have the 3rd most walks, and they slug. They're 6th in slug. They have the 6th most home runs, and they're 9th in stolen bases. So they're a top 10 offense because they get on base and they hit for power and they run. They also have the 7th fewest strikeouts, so they put the ball in play. So it's a very good offense. You look at who's hot right now. Pete Alonso, an 1103 OPS in his last 13 games with 4 doubles, 5 homers, and 17 runs batted in. Juan Soto heating up. He has a 1070 OPS in his last 13 with 3 doubles, 3 homers, 16 walks over that time. Jeff McNeil seems to be coming up with a lot of big hits for the Mets lately. He's hitting 298 with a 377 on base, 4 home runs, 4 walks, and just 4 strikeouts. He's definitely going to give you a tough at bat and put the ball in play. And Brandon Nimmo hitting 291 with a 361 on base percentage and 4 home runs in the last 2 weeks. Did mention Lindor there, and it's not that his numbers were bad necessarily, maybe bad for his standards. But he hasn't been as hot as the rest of these guys here lately. The bullpen, Huascar Brazaban, 1.64 ERA, 0.89 whip, 37 strikeouts and 38 in the third innings. Reed Garrett, 0.95 ERA, 1.24 whip, 34 strikeouts and 28 in the third innings. Jose Butto at 3.00 ERA, a 1.39 whip, 32 strikeouts and 36 innings. So you look at those 3 kind of setup guys, and numbers look pretty good. Whips kind of high. Both, Garrett and Butto both having whips over 1.2, and it's not like they're dominant in the strikeout department either. But just good pitchers. And then obviously in the 9th inning, you got Edwin Diaz, 2.22 ERA, 0.95 whip. He does strike out a lot, 42 of those in 28 in the third innings and 15 saves and 16 opportunities. Look at the pitching matchups for this series. It'll be David Peterson versus Spencer Schwellenbach on Tuesday. Peterson gets a lot of ground balls with that sinker that he throws almost 30% of the time at 91 miles per hour. The slider is his only pitch with a whiff rate over 30%. He has a 3.65 expected ERA, which is way over his actual, a 263 expected batting average, which is way over his actual, which would lead you to believe that there's some regression coming, and hopefully it comes on Tuesday night. The rest of the pitching matchups are Paul Blackburn versus Chris Sale. You better win that one. Again, the point I was trying to make about Sunday, it wasn't so much about Chris Sale not starting in that one as the message that it sent to the team. But you did push Chris Sale back to start against the Mets. And not only do you get to start him against the Mets, you start him against Paul Blackburn, his 6.75 ERA. So that needs to be a win. It's the one matchup you look at in this series and say, you got to win that one. And then in the finale, it's Clay Holmes, who has a 2.87 ERA on the year against Spencer Strider. So those are your pitching matchups. And this one, again, Braves just need to win series. Like I said, the Rockies one needed to be a sweep, but you also just need to win as many series as you can the rest of the way. And that starts on Tuesday night against the New York Mets. Thanks you all for joining me here today. Protect PR, Jeff Barry, Jeffrey Humphreys. Thank you all for joining live. Miguel Fria, 502 of Freedom. Really still laughing at your joke earlier. Appreciate that. Matt Karcher in here as well, part of the Locked On Braves Fantasy Baseball League, where I'm starting to catch you guys. You better watch out. I've won 3 in a row now. Thank you all for being here on today's live episode of Locked On Braves. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't already, the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.